Welcome to the year 2020. We're going back to the 80s. Because fuck it. Nostalgia sells, and I loved Season 3, so this is the one that with the Stranger Things Season 3 tie-in. Okay, so as previously mentioned, this episode has spoilers. Hell, the first 2 minutes is straight up the final boss fight, and now I'm gonna spoil Season 3 of Stranger Things. So, be aware. Most of this hunt comes down to just playing the game, including fighting the Mind Flayer in the mall, then facing off against the Russian spies. The final boss, his name is Grigori or something. I never fucking understood it. The hunt requires, and first off, I want to talk about that, because the fact that they don't have the Mind Flayer as the final boss completely confuses me. I get it. Totally get it. You know, you need to have the Joyce and Hopper moment be the last thing that happens. I totally get it. But I would have much rather have a wave after wave survival thing before I got saddled with just being given this bloody Grigori fight for two reasons. One, Grigori is the only fight in the entire game that requires you to take damage from him before you can do any damage to him. So you have to block his attacks, which requires you to get hit, and then you can just start wailing on him. But then, at best, you can only wail on him twice because you're playing as Hopper and he has the slowest whatever. So if you're really careful with it, you can get 2 hits off of him, but most of the time you're only going to get 1 hit off of him. And he ends up just being the worst character in the game to kind of face him off with. Which, granted, alright, maybe I don't like Hopper. Fine, whatever. I'll just change my characters. But then, you find out that, oh, you can't change characters for this final boss fight. You've played the entire game being able to just switch characters as you please, and then the final boss fight comes along, and you can't fucking do it. So that one boss fight alone set me back a whole day, because the way I end up platinuming most games is that I played pretty much all into the night, and the fact that I wasn't able to finish it because I got so frustrated pushed me back until I just did it the next morning, because I was like, I don't understand what I'm doing wrong, because half this fight, you're blocking attacks. The other half of the fight, you're fucking dodging electric. My voice is going. I'm really sorry about that. What a wonderful way to start out the year. You're dodging electric attacks left and right, getting whacked all along. He has this machine gun that, unless you have all of the health upgrades upquit, is going to take half of your health in a single bullet. I didn't fucking have all of them, so I struggled so much more than was needed, and just, it was god awful. So in the first playthrough, I kind of struggled. In the first playthrough, I also went through and ended up doing all of the side missions as well. This would get you a full party, since Will is only unlockable through the use of side missions, and he is a trophy. So it's not a problem there. The only other thing you're gonna have to do, besides doing all the side missions, is collect the 50 gnomes that are hidden around Hawkins. Now that being said, it's pretty easy to do all the side missions. You're not gonna be really asking anyone to do too much for you, which, you know, depending on what type of player you are, that could really be beneficial. But, you know, personally, I prefer having all of my characters. If I know that there are characters I can use, I'd rather have all my characters, just for diversifying gameplay and having a good time. So unlocking Will was always going to be kind of on the agenda. This game is an asymmetric top-down dungeon crawler, which this is also the first one of an asymmetric dungeon crawler, but I wasn't quite sure to put all those words into a single thing, so I just didn't. It's an asymmetric dungeon crawler. But the other reason why I wanted to do this is because I'm definitely not recording this video in October, and I'm definitely not doing this right before I go to Halloween Horror Nights, which has been themed around season 2 of Stranger Things. Definitely not doing that. So I'm definitely not riding the hype train hella hard as I go and get spooked later today, because it's Halloween Horror Nights 2019, and I am so excited for it. Now, all that being said, I still have more to talk about. Ah, bloody rat pack. The hunt does require 2 playthroughs. Alright, the first playthrough is gonna be, like I said, you're standing your playthrough, going through, collecting all the gnomes, collecting everything. Unfortunately, no gnomes are in a place that you can't get to later on, which is pretty good, especially if you just don't want to waste time like that and having to do it all over again with a permadeath run. Now, the second time you play through, like I said, it is on a permadeath run. Any character that dies is dead and no longer able to be a part of the party. Which I was worried about this, because I was like, okay, so what if I killed one of my more important characters? Do I then lose their ability? Fortunately, no. On the death run playthrough, none of the abilities get locked away. What does get locked away, though, are the characters and their fighting styles and all of that. So, for instance, I only died once during the hospital escape chase sequence, so I switched over to Mike. Well, once Mike was dead, I ended up not being able to use Mike for the rest of my playthrough. So not only did I lose his baseball bat ability and all of the trinkets that get used with him, I also lost his taunt ability. But other than that, I still was able to play the game with all of the other abilities, like with any other character. So it ends up working more or less for the best. Now, strangely enough, there's a permadeath run on this to-do list, but there's not a hardest difficulty playthrough. So, I decided that I wasn't going to put up with this garbage because of, firstly, the Grigori fight pissed me off way more than I think it was supposed to, or I wanted it to. So I ended up just saying, fuck it, I'm putting it on story mode, the easiest difficulty, and then I'm just not gonna deal with anything, because I hate this. So that's what I ended up doing. I put on the easiest difficulty on the permadeath run, and was able, like you said, like you guys saw in the beginning of this video, to pop those trophies. Which, if it works, it works. So, so the story of Stranger Things 3, the game, is pretty much, it's pretty simple. It is the season 3 of Stranger Things. So a lot of the story kind of ends up getting butchered in the game format. Mostly because there's no voice acting and there's nothing like that, because it's designed to replicate the games from the 80s. Okay. Not a problem. The issue is that after watching season 3 and knowing specific characters die and seeing those and getting my heart wrenched out from those moments, both when Hopper and when Billy dies, like, and if you're still hearing upset about the spoilers, I warned you in the first 3 minutes of this video twice, so piss off. You know, while you didn't have that weight, in the game, because I watched the show, it was alright. But it did make the game experience feel cheaper. And I feel like this is probably the first time that I played a game and was like, oh, there was a better medium for the story over there. So it is a weird kind of thing. My faith in games have been shaken by this asymmetric dungeon crawler. Ugh, I'm burping all over the place. So with all that, you know, there's not really a lot to kind of go on. The hardest thing I found, because I did it on story mode on the second round, because I already played it on normal, and if you're not gonna reward me, I don't fucking want it, because I'm a millennial. Was the gnomes. Mostly because there were a number of gnomes that were in like hidden places that I just completely forgot to go back to. Like, there was a number of gnomes that once you unlock the full roster of characters, the full roster of story characters, you're able to go everywhere. And once I unlocked Erica, that is when you're fully able to go to every single area, every single hidden thing. Well, there was a number of areas I just forgot I hadn't gone to with Erica, and because of that, I ended up using a guide for the last 10 of the playthroughs, because I was able to that way. Now I do want to say I do have my biggest complaint with the game, right? Pulling away from the fact that I didn't like the final boss not being the Mind Flayer. I didn't like how the final boss played out at all. And certain emotional moments just not hitting as well is because, as the TV show, I wish, that's how I want to say it, I wish that Robin would have been given a playable character role. Now, obviously, they had no idea how much the internet was going to love Robin and give her own meme, but I do wish she would have been playable. You know, she still plays the vital role of translating, and you do end up talking with her for like half of the game. But there are you don't get the full Robin experience in this game. There are a number of things that just never kind of come up. Because she's not given as much time in game as she is in the third season. So, perfect example. You know, in this version, she's kind of just the snooty bitch character, which, you know, she does have that punk rock vibe in the show, but she's given, you know, so much more to do that she has more of a tough exterior and there's much more going on with her. And you don't get that in the game. She ends up getting pretty shortchanged. And even though there was no way to predict the meme that would have come out of her, you know, I wish she would have been playable. And I wish there was just more Robin stuff to do. The other thing I do have a slight issue with is that there are glitches in this game. Specifically, if the side mission I could have picked up right after I did the first mission that you just watched me do at the pool, the lady next to Karen has a side mission for you. Pick up that side mission, and if you don't complete it before Billy gets flayed, it's going to be impossible to complete that side mission. Now, fortunately, if memory serves correctly, that mission isn't needed for any trophies. It is just a really good way to pick up some extra cash, which you will be needing in your permadeath playthrough, which is why I kind of like went back and tried it again. It is super important that, you know, you kind of keep in mind that that's happening. The other thing that's super important is knowing where to have all your gear and what craftables you should have on. Now, the craftables that I am doing it, that I did on story mode, keeping in mind I was doing it on story mode for my permadeath run, so I did have a much easier time doing it because I don't got shit to prove at that point. Is the fact that I had both of the shirts, the life protectors, as well as Okay, I didn't want you to do that, man. As well as a Child's Play, a Fire Starter, and a Thinker's Cap was everything that I had. This boosted L to being pretty much godly on my run because like most of the other characters just aren't nearly as good, which it's kind of funny. Like between L, you can run the entire permadeath playthrough with L and Will, and Max. Between those two characters, you can run the entire permadeath playthrough without really ever struggling. Which, I get it, you know, you want to have your heavy hitters, but when they're that heavy of hitters and there's really no reason to use any other characters, it gets disappointing. Now, I did mention how I did lose Will in the permadeath run. Yes, because after doing the first playthrough, permadeath mode unlocks. So you will then know which parts of the game you're going to kind of struggle with or just kind of awkward to play, because of how different they are with the game. Now, I've never played an asymmetric dungeon crawler, so there were times where I just couldn't get the angle right because I wasn't used to like looking at the screen like that. I wasn't used to doing all that. Alright, fine. Well, playing through, I knew that there were going to be 2 main boss fights that I wasn't really keen on facing in a permadeath run. Now, maybe because I played on story mode, it ended up not being that hard. I ended up playing on the easiest difficulty. I didn't have nearly as much struggles as I thought I was going to. But the Hospital Royale, after you beat the actual boss fight that's there, you have to do this runaway sequence. Now, that alone, I was kind of worried about. I wasn't quite sure how I was going to make it because the first time I did that on normal difficulty, I ended up dying about 4 times. So that alone would have taken out half of my party in this permadeath mode, and I was really worried about that. So when that part came up, I switched over the mic and was like, alright, so at least if I die here, I won't be completely screwed. So with having that kind of safety net of being willing to lose Mike, Hopper, and Steve, because they just that first off really don't have anything kind of going for them. You know what I mean? Like their abilities are kind of garbage, and they're not even kind of, they're just easier to use with other characters. They're just a worse situation than most of the other characters. If you're going to have a character down, you're on permadeath round. If you want to run a permadeath run on a harder difficulty, the way to do it would 100% be with having characters that you just know you're going to die. You're going to lose. Now, all that being said, do I recommend playing through Stranger Things 3? I'm not quite sure, man. Like, while this game is good, if you've watched the 3rd season, I don't think there's any real reason to play this game on its own. I feel like a lot of the moments that it does, like when Billy sacrifices himself to the Mind Flayer, right? In the show, you know, you're given enough of the backstory to kind of be like, okay, I can see why he would do this. In the game, he kind of just does it, and you're looking at him like, why? Doesn't really make sense. You know, it hasn't been given that weight to be like, oh, this was important. This was a shaping moment in these characters. That's why he was willing to sacrifice himself. You don't get that in the game. So, I would have to say, no. Just watch the TV show. But then if you're going to watch the TV show, you don't really have a reason to play the game. I mean, maybe you like this type of game. Maybe this type of game is your bread and butter. This asymmetric dungeon crawler. And if it is, good for you. And you should play it. I mean, if it's the type of game you like, go ahead, play it. But I just don't have enough experience to be like, yes, this is a good asymmetric dungeon crawler. You should definitely play it. So I'm not entirely sure if this game really does anything right. I'm not sure if it's a good enough dungeon crawler for people to be like, gotta get that Stranger Things fix. It's a worse version of the story from the show, and it's just a bit of a mess in comparison. So I'm not embarrassed about this platinum. I'm not proud of it, but I might just say go for it. You know, because I'm not even sure I'd acknowledge it. It's more of a thing I did because Halloween Horror Nights was here. And I love Stranger Things. So, maybe it's a good thing, maybe it's not. But for me, I'm going to just have to say, go for it. Thank you guys for watching. I did try something a little bit differently in this episode. With structure-wise. And I'm going to keep toying with it. Toying with the formula this year. I'm really excited to kind of be doing the games we're doing this year. We got some big stuff coming. The one thing I really do want to talk about is that I'm going to be doing a campaign this year. Last year we did the Indie Invasion campaign where we played a bunch of indie games with cult followings, those kinds of things. And we did a bunch of those. And we're going to be doing a bunch of stuff this year as well. Now this year, the campaign is going to be called the ABCs of Platinum Hunting. ABCs of Platinum Hunting. And here are the rules of the campaign. 1. In order to be the game on the list, they have to be done within the actual order of the alphabet. So A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P. I did say X after H, which is weird. All the way down to Z. They have to be done in the correct order. 2nd, before I start the game, in this glorious year of 2020 that I'm recording this in, and definitely not recording this in 2019 in October, right before I go to Halloween Horror Nights, they have to be done with 0% of the trophies collected before I start the hunt for like you. The other thing is that you will know, I'm going to let you know, if the video title is the one that starts with blank letter, that is one of the games a part of the ABC list. Now I'm going to try my best to do them in order, pretty much straight lining them. However, if time doesn't allow me to do that, then I might have to throw in a couple of videos here and there. This also means that I'll probably do one video once I actually get to 2020, because I am still in October. Once I actually get to 2020, I'll probably do a quick platinum trophy on the 1st of January. Be like, hey, this is the first one of 2020, and then from there on out, I just go straight into the ABCs. But I'm not entirely sure how it's going to work just yet. You know, I do have a couple of things I'm going to be workshopping as I kind of do it. I do plan on doing bigger games this year. I know I'm currently working on a game to clear burrito debt. I'm just not sure if that video is going to be able to come out this month or in February next month. So, you know, there's that. So I have a lot of stuff going on for 2020. 2020 is going to be the year of the trophy of Tales of the Hunt. You know, last year we buckled down on storytelling, on story times. doing a campaign for that, reshaping how that kind of goes. And now as we go into my 5th year of doing YouTube, I'm going to be focusing more on Tales of the Hunt. So thank you guys for watching and for being a part of this kind of craziness. And, let's see what 2020 has. This year is going to be a year. We have a presidential campaign happening. We have absolute madness coming with Cyberpunk 2077. We have all this shit going on. So let's just see where this goes. Alright? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.